Welcome back to the Health Marketing Collective, where strong leadership meets marketing excellence. I'm your host, Sara Payne, and we're coming to you from Health 2025, where we're spotlighting some of the bold voices shaping the future of healthcare.
The Health Marketing Collective is powered by Imprella, a communications firm built for health brands determined to lead, not follow. We partner with marketing innovators who aren't just chasing attention, they're building movements. Connect with the audiences shaping the future of care and lead the conversations that move your market. Ready to rise above the noise? Visit Imprella.com. That's INPRELA.com. Let's create something that moves the market.
Joining me is Kayla Weeks, Vice President of Marketing and Communications for Reperio Health. Thanks so much for being here.
Of course. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
Let's start off with a bit of a conversation around kind of the short story of what Reperio Health is and what it is you're doing in healthcare.
Yeah. So Reperio helps you know if you're healthy without leaving your living room.
Love it.
We do that by shipping a kit into your home. It's an at-home preventive care kit. We can assess for heart health, metabolic health, pre-diabetes, weight management. The screening takes 30 minutes. It's self-guided with our app. And the blood work results are instant, which is really the biggest differentiator, right? You know, any other at-home diagnostic solution out there in the world right now still requires the blood work to be shipped out to a lab for 2 to 4 weeks of processing. And we've learned, you know, with modern day healthcare consumers that any wait period between health testing and health results actually results in 44% of people not following through or following up because there's that wait time. So there's it's such a care gap.
That's amazing. Love what you're doing.
Thank you.
I know that you're a believer that buyers are humans first. Yeah. And so as marketers, we need to remember to communicate to them as humans. Where do you think as an industry in general, we fall short of that today in healthcare?
You know, I have a background in psychology, so I thought I was going to be a therapist once upon a time and, you know, quickly learned that that wasn't my path, but I infuse a lot of my learnings, right, from that space into how I approach marketing. And I think it's really hard to, I always like to say, you get lost in the sauce of, you know, building ICPs and personas and battle cards and making people feel like they're just two-dimensional almost. And the truth is like, I wake up and I'm scrolling TikTok and checking Instagram and listening to Taylor Swift, like, but I'm also a marketing executive that's being sold into. And I think the shortcoming is forgetting that we're human first and that we, you know, have human things that we like in our personal lives. And, you know, being a professional and being like who you are can be mutually exclusive. And I don't know, you get lost in all of the semantics of what it means to be selling or marketing into somebody and the organization that they work for.
Such a great reminder.
Yeah.
Can you share some examples of what this looks like in the work that you and your team are doing, whether it's, you know, specific content or campaigns that you have out in the marketplace?
Something I'm really excited about that we've started to do is attaching ourselves to really big pop culture moments. We're calling it Trendjacking. So we're using that as, you know, a way. Preventive healthcare is universal. So is pop culture. And so we're using it as like a low barrier entry point to talk about healthcare and preventive healthcare and how to prioritize it in a way that feels friendly and fun. And a good example of that, you know, for example, would be the American Eagle jeans campaign that literally got
a lot of attention. Yes.
So, you know, we ran a campaign that said, well, we heard they have great jeans, but what about good cholesterol?
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Very
and
creative.
So it was fun. You know, we got to play on a lot of the messaging and the language, and it resonated because everyone saw, you know, that ad campaign coming from Gap and American Eagle. And it just gives us disproportionate attention in a way that you can't really break through the noise in traditional methods as much anymore because we're all inundated so much. So you have to find a really good way to break through. And I don't know, we like to think that we're just humanizing healthcare a little bit more by approaching it that way.
In order to do this trendjacking, you have to be able to move pretty quickly, right? Because that moment happens, especially today. It happens like that and it's over.
Yeah.
So how do you and your team build that sort of nimbleness and that infrastructure to be able to move? And the other part of this, which I think is really important, is having that leadership buy-in, that executive buy-in, that you don't have to go through, 24 layers of approvals to get something out the door. Otherwise, again, that moment has passed. So talk a little bit about that dynamic.
Honestly, the biggest unlock for me has been working for a leadership team that values and understands what I'm doing as a marketing leader, number one, but they also give me a ton of creative liberty.
That's
so
amazing.
If you don't have that, it's harder, right, to operationalize some of those things. Most people are really shocked to find out that I was a team of one up until 3 months ago.
Wow.
So I just hired a marketing manager who works under me. And the way that we make it happen is staying nimble and like being honest with ourselves around like, how can we make these things happen? There's a lot of talk about how marketers are leveraging AI in our work. I'm a true believer that if you aren't learning how to use these tools to accelerate the speed at which you can deliver and scale, the work that you're driving as a team of two, like you are going to be left behind. So the way that we do this here is I've built an AI agent that essentially scans all of the news media, all of the pop culture moments every single morning, and I get a report delivered via a zap to Slack that highlights all of the trending moments from that day that could have a preventive care
angle to it. Yeah.
Right. Because it's not about for us jumping on every single trend. That's not the goal, because otherwise it just becomes noise all over again. But there are moments like, Taylor Swift being on the New Heights podcast, promoting her new album, where she talked about her dad.
Her dad's health. Yes.
And he had a heart attack, and that through line was just there.
Yeah.
We just happened to be paying attention with the help of our AI friend.
And it just happened to be Taylor Swift.
And it happened to be Taylor Swift, which is, I don't know, magic in of itself.
Yes.
So she's a marketeer.
Yes.
I say
100%.
Yeah.
A lot of great lessons to be learned from her, for
definitely.
sure. Yeah. I think a lot of marketers in healthcare want to be able to do this. What we're talking about here in these examples, is this largely B2C, or is there a B2B component in what we're doing here?
We are primarily B2B.
Okay.
So we sell our kit direct to employer is who we primarily sell into right now, because they typically will offer us as an alternative to, sending their teams to brick and mortar labs or a physician's office with a physician's form, right? They're using us as that annual wellness visit for their people. So it is all B2B.
Wow.
But again,
I wouldn't have guessed that from the outside, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But again, it's because we are treating our B2B buyers
like humans,
like they're real human beings that have like personal motivations as well.
Yeah. It's a great model, I think, for people to try to aspire to step outside of that more traditional approach and try something different. Was there like a before and after, and the way you were doing it before versus the way you're doing it now, or, different campaigns where you can measure sort of the performance of this more trendjacking approach versus a more traditional approach?
Yeah, I also have a lot of freedom in the way that I report out impact to our leadership team. And so we're not chasing vanity metrics, which I know can be really challenging for a lot of marketers, because, there is this desire to like draw a straight line of ROI from thing delivered to how that translates into pipeline or, the bottom line for the business. And some of the biggest things that we haven't measured like true ROI on have landed us the biggest logos over the last year, right? And so, I don't know. It does have a lot to do with the leadership team, but the onus is on us to be educating, right, our leaders around the shift that modern day marketing has taken, because it has gone in a really different direction. We're not on the MQL hamster wheel anymore.
Right.
We have to find different ways to measure success. And ultimately, if your marketing is working, then you're getting more clients, more people are coming inbound to you, raising their hand saying, I'm ready to buy. There's less fishing with a spear or fishing with
Yeah.
a net. It has to be
Yes.
done. So
Yeah, I mean, building a brand in healthcare, building trust in healthcare is the long game. And having a leadership team that understands that is definitely a gift because it opens up a lot of potential and opportunity to, I think, really push on creativity in new and different ways.
Yeah.
I think one of the other challenges for health marketers as they think about taking this kind of approach is really balancing that clinical credibility that we know is so important with that culturally relevant, maybe a little bit more outside the box approach. Tell me a little bit about how you balance those things because you still need that clinical credibility.
Yeah, I think from a tactical standpoint, you need to decide what your content pillars are. You know, so we have 4 of them at Reperio. One of them happens to be like pop culture, trendjacking, like more fun approaches to things. But another one of those is like rooted in data. And, you know, we do have published case studies and, you know, we don't ever want to, there's a delicate balance, right, between coming off too funny and too strong and,
agreed,
you know, polarizing some of the more clinical audiences that are important to us as well. But, you know, if you have a consistent cadence that you are, you know, if it's social media is like where you're really sharing a lot of your content, if you have a cadence in place that is making sure that your content pillars are being recycled through in a way that your audience comes to expect, it just feels people just, you know, adopt to like what you're putting out there and come to expect those things from you. And that's what builds brand recall.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
Great point. I think in the preventive care space, this is obviously a growing space, wonderfully so, because we'd love to put more dollars into the front end versus the, you know, late stage, end stage disease treatment, right? But I know from personal experience, friends and family, that there can be some fear about participating in this type of, you know, preventive care, analysis, diagnostics, et cetera. So how do you think about that as a marketing leader, moving people from that state of fear to really embracing it?
Well, you know, when I first joined, I did an evolution of sorts of our brand voice and tone. And that has a lot to do with building trust and credibility, honestly, you know, because if you are taking a more human approach, then you want to make sure that your language and your positioning, you know, is reflective of the audience that you're trying to reach. And so, you know, I think what it really boils down to at the end of the day is listening more. You know, as marketers, we have a tendency to always be like speaking out or like pushing things out, but sometimes you need to zoom out yourself and listen and prioritize audience research to a degree.
Great point.
To understand like what that needs to look like for you in your brand's messaging, positioning, etc.
Love that. Last question. What's one thing you believe about the future of preventive care?
You know, we're truly in a preventive care revolution right now, which is really, really exciting. You know, 60% of U.S. adults are walking around with one underlying unknown chronic condition. That should scare the crap out of all of us.
Well, going back to that point about fear, I think it really does.
Yeah. And, you know, people do get, you know, scared. You know, it's a little bit more comfortable. You can be okay with the unknown to a degree, right? Like, if you know, then you have to take action. And that can be the nebulous part. It's like, now sometimes what we don't know doesn't hurt us, right? But what we've seen now is a country that is so sick and a system that can't keep up and is just not capable of taking care of us anymore. And so really what's exciting for me with the way that everything's being prioritized around prevention is that we're finally catching up to like putting the healthcare consumer first, because that's really what it's all about for us, is true consumer-centered healthcare delivery. I mean, if you can order your groceries and get them delivered in an hour, or if you can string your favorite show in 20 seconds via an app, why can you not access healthcare services the same way?
Great point.
So, yeah, I mean, we're trying to bring the same type of experience to your porch that you get when you order your next pair of tennis shoes off of Amazon Prime, right?
Yes.
Open the door, pick it up, and you get exactly what you want.
I love that. Well, thanks so much for joining me. This was really fun. I love what you guys are doing in this space. I truly do believe in the future of preventive care. So thanks for everything you guys are doing in this space.
I'll have to send you a kit so you can take it.
Oh, I would love that. I would love that. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Thanks for joining us on the Health Marketing Collective, coming to you from Health 2025, where we're spotlighting the bold voices that are shaping the future of healthcare. We'll see you next time.